Hey there, hi there, ho there, everyone. This is Erica. I am your host of TATM, that is the Anarchist Transmission Podcast. I hope everyone's having. That's a strange friggin' word. I hope everyone's having a good evening. Today we've got a couple of things on the docket. We are going to start with Gen Z for Trump and his ridiculousness as an 18-year-old that thinks he has any say on how things run in this world. And then we are going to move on to an Ask Me Anything segment where anyone who comes on the podcast gets to ask me anything about high demand religions, especially the Watchtower and Awake Society, the Jehovah's Witnesses. To start us off, before we get into any of our topics, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the. I'm going to go ahead and introduce the host that we do currently have on with me. It is our resident Kanakistani from the Soviet state of Kanakistan. Say hello, you dirty Frenchy Frenchman, Dale.
Bonjour tout le monde. Whoa, tabarnak. It's good
Fucking
to be
Frenchman.
here. Welcome to the show.
Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry about stuffing my face while I'm trying to conduct this podcast. So,
People do be hungry sometimes. Can't help
oh
that.
yeah, I'm 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 pretty stinking hangry right now. Um, so to to start us off, while we're waiting for Drakena to get in here, and Stoner, yes, she's coming. You just have to wait a minute, okay? She's eating right now, and she doesn't want to be live on stream while eating, which I get. I don't either, but I'm gonna do it anyways. Um, so we're gonna start with this beautiful gem from Gen Z for Trump, and people are gonna really get why this 18-year-old is here. Sorry about that. Okay, so Gen Z for Trump. What should be the penalty for people of the same sex who have sex? A fine, 37.9%, jail time, 13.7%, death, 48.4%. And this is,
First, oh,
yeah,
first of all, there's something about that sentence on a grammatical level bothers me. Is it just me, or is there feels feels like it wasn't even a proper sentence. People of the same sex who have sex. I mean,
yeah,
are they who are they having sex with?
I know it's grammatically incorrect.
I'm sorry, I am a grammar Nazi here. Sorry, something
Yeah,
about
so
this.
am I.
I don't know who this person is, but I already dislike them just because of that. Forget even the sentence, the question itself. It already bothers me just the fucking bad grammar. So fuck you, Gen Z, for Trump.
Um, so there were 1,423 people that voted, and the final result is 48.4%. Nearly half of all people that voted in favor of death for homosexuality. Not the act of homosexuality, the people who have homosexual sex. And that would be 688.732 people.
So like 78 people and a midget.
No, 688 people and a midget.
Oh, fair enough.
Once again, I'm sorry. I'm stuffing my face while we're doing this. Um So that's a fun one, and
Mhm.
I think this is where we got a lot of people. Oh yeah, because I had seen this quite literally the day after we had done our podcast on Jody Hildebrandt.
Hmm.
I said, this is what fundamentalism brings. Jody Hildebrandt, a woman in jail that was caught abusing children after 3 decades of abusing husbands and kids. A woman so wrapped up in fundamentalism that she literally believes she's fighting Satan by abusing others.
Indeed. Thankfully now in jail. So, how did the quote tweets go? Were they mostly anti this person or were they mostly pro this person and their question?
Well, let's take a look. Mm,
Wait, scroll up. This person, someone said, okay, lolly lover. What? It's
oh,
interesting.
yeah,
Well, then.
because Gen Z for Trump sent a bunch of lolly lesbian pictures
Interesting. Interesting.
to who I can only assume is a lesbian.
Indeed. Hmm. So, drawings of people engaging in homosexual acts are okay, but for some reason the acts themselves are bad. Interesting. Oh, and wait, scroll up there, scroll up again. If you notice the one on the right, I'm just gonna get to this. Not only is that, well, actually, that's not lolly, but it is porn. That's all I will say on that. So, this person, it is a very well-known, Yuri game series, and for those wondering how I know of it, clearly I just read about it.
Uh-huh, sure.
Um, yes. But yes, it is a very well-known game series in the Yuri, which is girls' love genre of like porn games. So hypocrite much. Someone may very well be spending too much time looking at specs when they should be looking at planks. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that this has worked out very well at all. At least not this specific tweet.
Indeed.
Let's see. Uh Tobiah 497 option for tyrants and their acolytes eat shit and die.
Fair enough. So
I'm down.
fair.
I am so down. And
Mhm.
for the first few days of this past week, I was issuing stack up comments towards Gen Z for Trump.
Did Gen Z for Trump reply to any of them?
No, but I'm sure I can find some uh something that he did react to. Let me
Interesting.
see if I can find it. It's buried pretty far down. Let's see. No, that was yesterday morning. Almost there, I'm sure.
All right. So you reacted specifically to something you said, or was it just a reaction
Yeah,
to?
he reacted specifically to something I said.
Was that like he quote tweeted it or something?
No, he didn't quote tweet. He actually reacted to it. Like
Oh,
he liked the reply.
oh. Was that the reply? I remember the last week has been a bit hazy since I've been fairly sick. But I remember there was something going around where someone said something to the something akin to "I'll just let the police handle it" or something like that, like implying that they just yeah, implying they just go to the police about these matters and have you disarmed that way. Was
Oh,
that the thing I was thinking of? Or was
no, that's over pit bulls.
yes,
I am not jumping back into pit bulls right now.
indeed.
Mm,
Was it a similar type of comment, or was it something completely different?
it was completely different.
Hmm. And while I'm sure that most people who would listen to such a podcast would know what it means, could you briefly explain just what stack up means for those who may not, for those ignorant motherfuckers who may not know?
Yeah, so stack up is an invitation of sorts. Um, a stack in and of itself is not like bodies piled on top of each other. A stack is a military formation or some sort of formation that armed people use when making entry into a room or a building. And the way that they make entry into the building is often to produce shock and awe so that they catch anyone and everyone inside by surprise.
Hmm.
But see, when when people that are trained by the military they stack up, we say it because we already know the tactics and we can easily defend against and set up ambushes against said tactics.
Hmm. So this I am more curious. What is the standard defense against that? What do you do to prevent such a thing from taking you down?
Well, um, as soon as you are certain that someone is stacking up, you get into a prone position and you get as far away from the door that they're going to breach uh,
Mhm.
in a uh, in a direct line because most people are going to gravitate to a corner where they're concealed.
Mhm.
And so that's the first place that these guys making entry, the absolute first place that they're going to go. Yeah,
Oh, it seems.
that's the first place they're going to look in order to clear the room. Whereas if you're right in front of the door, far away, but like you're in the direct line of the door,
Mhm.
they're not going to see you there because they're not looking for you there.
Hmm.
It's one of those I saw you, but I didn't see you because my perception is that you should be elsewhere.
Ah. It's very counterintuitive, but I guess it makes sense. Oh, all right. We have two new people joining, or not new. We
What
have
the
two
fuck?
additional people joining us.
Oh, yay. Okay, so before we continue, let me introduce Molly. Say hello, Molly.
Hello.
That is very solemn, very somber, a very somber tone. Are you okay?
No, I just like remembered because I just turned on my laptop,
Oh,
and and my eyes are a bit watery.
Gotcha. Okay. And then we have Drakena. Say hello.
Hey,
Okay, so since neither of you were in here when we started the stream, I decided we were going to start with Gen Z for Trump. Who's been watching this shit?
I've seen it, but I've not really kept up with it. Looks
Okay.
funny though.
Well,
So
here's where we're currently at. So after the whole "what should the penalty be for homosexuals" tweet, the next day we get this nugget: Gen Z for Trump. We will bring the fight against LGBTQ people to a whole new level. Fandom fighter here says, "Prove it. Fight me. Post your max bench and your max 10 rep amount
Oh,
with video. I guarantee mine will be more. Because you're weak and I'm strong." Kind of
Well,
fucking
you
cringy.
already know this person is weak because they have been posting fucking lolicon images to people, right? You already know they're weak because they're fucking anime posting. So, yeah,
Well,
and lolly posting at that.
here's where we go from there. So guy posts a picture of himself. Obviously, he's gay. Great for him. But he's also from the UK. And I said, instead of biceps, let's just post our guns. And I proceeded to post guns. And this is the very post that Gen Z for Trump liked.
Interesting.
And I said, stack up, Gen Z for Trump. Bet you won't. He never answered me. Never replied to me.
Hmm.
Not a thing. Let's see.
Sorry
What
about that,
else
people.
do we
I'm
have
for
here?
the record. If I go silent, sometimes I probably am just not wanting the chat to hear me blow my nose because I am still recovering from what appeared to be COVID and my nose is runny and annoying. So I will not subject you all to the sound of me blowing my nose. Significantly louder than that.
Okay, well, I'm fucking around. Anyways, so then we have this golden nugget. Do you support turning America into a theocratic constitutional republic? There is no such a thing. I don't have any problems with anyone practicing fucking Christianity, Judaism, Islam, uh Hindu, fucking whatever. Whatever your religion. I don't care. Practice it. But don't think you get to go ahead and turn the US into a theocratic constitutional republic. There is no such thing. It cannot exist. It is antithetical to everything we have ever stood for in the United States. Have I
Seeing
lost
someone just
everyone
left.
here? Oh,
Oh,
oh.
there we go. Oh, well, sometimes internet issues happen. Can't be blamed. It's
Well, it
internet can
happens
suck.
in her neck of the woods.
Yeah.
Okay, so Stoner is saying that the quote tweets on this one are good,
Oh goody.
but there's only 6 of them.
So that means you can see all of them.
Y- Well, I can see three of them, and one of them being mine. I said his idea isn't a constitutional republic, it's a sexual slash sexuality socialism.
Mhm.
Because Nazism is socialism just based on race. What he wants is socialism based on sex and sexuality.
Yeah.
I've actually seen that idea quite a bit on Twitter recently.
Mhm.
I don't. It confuses me because it's apparently conservative saying it, but rarely is anything they say conservative.
Yeah. So on that, I do have a few things I think we should bring up because they are interesting, I would say, in that. So we talk about the U.S. and we've often talked about John Locke and his ideas and how they influenced
Mm-hmm.
the foundation of America. Do you know who the only person John Locke said that we cannot tolerate in society are?
No.
Atheists. So this on that, it is an interesting note. And I'm not advocating for a theocratic constitutional republic, but there has been a fairly strong tradition of at least anti-atheism in the U.S. That
Which I'm aware of.
which and also I think it was Thomas Jefferson who said that this constitution is only fit for a quote moral and religious population, and that it could not govern any other type of population. So there is I'm not gonna go out and say that it's not like there isn't precedent for this in the um within the founding of the country.
Oh yes, I'm well aware of the Christian roots that started the country. Very, very well aware of it.
Yes, and it's
But we
not
have
entirely Christian. I know a few of
I
some
don't.
of them were
Yeah.
more Christian. Some of them were just more deists. And for those who don't know what a deist may be or is, a deist is someone who believes in God but doesn't necessarily believe in any of the in any of the major religions. So they believe God exists, but they kind of believe that He exists and He created everything, and then He kind of just left everything off to its own devices. So I know a fair amount of the founding fathers were just deists, and a fair amount of them were traditional Christians.
That sounds kind of like how Serbians perceive God and shit.
Hmm.
well,
Yeah.
the simple fact of the matter is, given the framework of the Constitution, even if the founders or the one man that influenced an entire generation, John Locke, didn't like atheists, he helped build the framework for us to live peacefully.
Yes.
Simple fact of the matter is, thanks to the First Amendment, not only is it completely okay to practice a religion, it is also completely okay to not practice any religion,
Yes.
which is the complete opposite of a theocratic constitutional republic. If you are a Christian, which many of the founding fathers were, many of them held Christian beliefs, you cannot believe that everyone must practice a religion. You can't do it. It doesn't work. It's antithetical to your own morals.
Mhm. Well, I just on that I will add a bit of nuance and say there should be noted a difference between everyone between the idea that everyone should practice a specific religion and everyone must. Right? You can't forcibly convert people.
That's what I meant.
That's just not a thing. Like a conversion at the barrel of a gun is not an actual. All right, ignoring what the Muslims believe because they believe you can forcibly convert people, according to 2,000 years of Christian theology and doctrine, you can't forcibly convert people. And
Continue
I don't
on.
mean you
I'm
can't
getting a
because it's
beer.
wrong. I mean you can't because that's not an actual conversion. Right? Something something forced is not something that you do by choice. Like
you say that, but the Ottomans did that to Serbs, and then you have Bosnia.
as I said, the Muslims believe differently. The Muslims believe that you can convert by sword. You can just threaten to kill. You can either convert or kill them.
Those are the extremists.
Yes, but again, the last 2,000 years of and we're not talking about these weird fucking American heresies, but the last 2,000 years of Christian theology says forcible conversions aren't. Right?
Yes, but previous, for instance, during the Inquisition,
Yes.
You could. You absolutely fucking could.
Yes, if we want to, if I may go a bit deeper just on the Inquisition, I count the Catholics as heretics too, but that's just me. And
let's be honest here. Christianity is just Roman paganism. That's all it is.
No,
it's no. Hold on.
Western Christianity, sure.
It is rebranded pagan, Roman paganism.
Yeah, she's right.
So we may at some point go deeper into this at some other time, but there is there is an excellent video. While I am not a Catholic apologist by any means, there's an excellent video by one bishop. What's his name? I'm blanking on his name. He's the famous American TV. Hold on one second. Oh, all right. So there's a famous video online that was filmed in like the 50s or 60s where he basically goes over that whole it's just rebranded paganism and stuff like these things it's just like rebranded sun worship and all that. It's not, but I'm blanking on that. We can go over that some other time.
Well, and here's where I became so disgruntled with Christianity as a young person. Did you know that Christ was not born in December?
Yes.
Okay. So why do we celebrate Christ's birth in December?
Because the calendars the West fucked up the calendars and changed them.
True.
Yeah,
but then you have the Chinese ones.
They changed it sometime after the first millennia. They switched from the what is it? The Caesarian calendar, they switched to Gregorian.
The Caesarian, yes.
No, it wasn't it was the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar, and they changed a lot of things.
In 332 AD. In 332 AD, the Council of Nicaea. Thank you, the Council of Nicaea. They made a lot of modifications to the quote-unquote New Testament. And one of them was to make sure that the birth of Christ coincided with the birth of the sun, the winter solstice. And it has been that way ever since.
All right.
the
So
the
Dale?
the
yeah,
pagan celebration of the birth of the sun is the winter solstice, and then
yes,
the rebirth of the sun is the spring solstice.
the summer solstice, I
Thank
believe.
you. The summer solstice, which just so happens to coincide with Easter and the Passover.
As I said, at some point we will have to do a more deep dive into this because we c- we could go an hour on this, and we do have
Yes,
other topics.
yes, we do, and I was only planning on spending this long on Gen Z for Trump to begin with. This man, this child,
Mhm.
this person who has lived 16 years less than I have. Um, he is a dumpster fire. Anyways, anyways, I had promised Drakena that I would teach her more about high demand religions, and it just so happens, Drakena, that I was raised in one. I was a Jehovah's Witness for the first 17 and a half years of my life. Well, more like 18, because I was in the theology for 18 years, but I didn't believe for all 18 years. So, this is an Ask Me Anything for anyone and everyone on the stream. Ask
So
whatever
I
the
guess
fuck you want.
if I may ask the first question, so you said you were in it for 18 years, but didn't believe it for 18 years. At what point did your belief become unbelief? How old were you when you first stopped believing it? If
Okay, so uh I couldn't believe anything before I was like 4, maybe 5 years old, because I
correct,
didn't understand jack squat. So
yeah,
let's call it about 15 years that I was in and
mhm,
actually believed.
yeah,
Uh no, more like 12 years.
mhm,
12 or 13 years. So I was actually having a discussion with Floof about my last time getting suspended from school.
mhm,
I was talking to him about it a couple weeks ago, and I had brought up that my senior year of high school, the first Virginia Tech shooting in
mhm,
2007 had happened. Not too long before graduation and, the prom and all that jazz. I was talking to one of my friends on AIM, and I'm sorry if people don't know what that is. It's AOL Instant Messenger.
we are all dating ourselves here by acknowledging that.
Well, I just told everyone I'm 34, so
Fair enough.
um anyways, so I'm talking to my friend about what happened in Virginia Tech, and I'm like, man, I used to really feel that way. I understand where this kid was at. But she took what I said out of context and sent it to my school's administration.
Mm,
And and instead of providing, you know, instead of her providing full context, or even the school asking for the full context of the discussion, they called the police and had me taken away, and the police were like, "Man, you didn't do anything wrong." Because even
mhm,
they could tell from the tone of the message that I wasn't planning anything. I wasn't a danger to anyone.
right. And just briefly, could you, so what was the motivation of the shoot? I'm actually not very familiar with Virginia Tech, so like,
I
what
don't
what were you
remember.
sympathizing with exactly?
I I I honestly don't remember. It was 16 years ago.
Oh, all right, fair enough.
Um So the cops are like, fine, we're gonna take this person to 3 East, which is a psych ward, and we'll have them evaluated. And so I was evaluated, and I had nurses and doctors just in and out for about 4 fucking hours. Cops are just standing there like, you don't deserve any of this. But
Mhm.
the doctor, the final doctor said, okay, we'll admit you, but you are not on a psychiatric hold. You can leave anytime you want.
Hmm.
Which was kind of the necessary step in order for me to not get expelled.
Mhm.
Or so I was told when I was taken out of the high school.
Mhm.
Jump back to when I was taken from the high school in the police car. There is one other Jehovah's Witness in the school.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, his mother is the biggest gossip in our
Mhm.
congregation, and he takes after her. And what's even
Mhm.
more unfortunate is the fact that her husband was an elder of the congregation,
Mhm.
so she never saw any punishment. Um, when I finally did get out and got back to school, the first weekend out of the psych ward, I went to the congregation for our quote unquote meeting, which is just what everyone else calls um, Sunday church.
Mhm.
And everyone stayed the fuck away from me. No one wanted anything to do with me because they all thought I was gonna shoot everyone, and all that. I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. And in fact, the Watchtower and Awake Society very explicitly said, or had very explicitly said for nearly a century, that those who are the most holy will be persecuted by people who don't understand them.
Mm.
And I was indeed persecuted by people who didn't understand me, even more so by the very people who taught me that lesson.
Mhm.
I saw the absolute hypocrisy in the Watchtower and Awake Society that very day, and I never went back.
Hmm.
Because
All
if
right.
there was one thing, if there was one thing I was taught throughout all my time growing up, it's that there's something God hates more than sinners. It's
Mhm.
hypocrites.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. One last question, and I will let other people ask. This is a bit more of a shallow question, but I want to know: did you ever participate in those door-to-door campaigns that the Jehovah's Witnesses are famous for?
For about 7 years,
Hmm.
and
So,
it's not small campaigns. It's quite literally, if you are not a ministerial servant, you're
mhm.
basically doing it every Saturday. But if you're a
Hmm.
ministerial servant, you do it pretty much from Thursday through Sunday.
Hmm. And so you said you're doing it for 7 years. So I assume you started what age did you start doing that at?
About 10.
And I assume you're not there to really um evangelize people at 10.
Oh
Isn't it
no,
just like you're just there to stand there and be quiet where your parents do it,
I
or like how does
no
that work
no no
out?
no no no. My parents had not been active in field service for years when I started, and they continued to not go out in service. I did
So
it
you.
by myself with
Oh.
my district elder. So elders are sectioned off, and different people get different elders. And
Mhm.
so my elder was someone who lived in a different area of town, even though I lived closest to the elder who had the wife that was the gossip.
Mhm.
I got a different elder,
Hmm.
and I would go out with him on Saturdays. And his wife was a ministerial servant, and I was what was called a unbaptized publisher.
Hmm.
And I didn't just stand there and I wasn't quiet. I did exactly the same things that pretty much all of the adults did.
Hmm.
I participated. I engaged people that we did get that came to the door.
Mhm.
Uh, I do my little pitch with one of the tracts that we had, and hoped that I'd get someone that wanted to do anything.
Mhm.
Um, Z is asking if she can say something. Go ahead, Z. What do you want? Stoner is asking, how did you break your doomsday cult brainwashing? And is it me, or do heretical religions like the Jehovah's Witnesses, evangelicals, etc., just attract wannabe tyrants? Well,
Well, if I may briefly answer,
go
any
ahead.
position of power attracts wannabe tyrants, whether it be
Yes.
whether it be in religions, in states, in companies, or in anything else.
Because
Any position of
I have a
power
story
attracts
for you
wannabe
real quick.
tyrants.
Go
Oh,
ahead,
yeah.
Z.
So, like you were talking about the door-to-door campaign, it used to be really bad down here where every day they used to show up.
Mm.
And back when I lived in the main town of Aiken,
Mhm.
we actually saw people coming up with the pamphlets and everything for that. So me and my roommate had the idea of how to get rid of them. So we turned on this video that had chainsaws, screaming, and everything else going on in the background. And we both put on an apron, covered it in fake blood because Halloween we had fake blood at the time. We kept extra. So we each held on a butcher knife with that fake blood on it. And right when they came out in art, we opened the door and went, "Oh, goody! More sacrifice for our Lord and Savior Costello." They never they came back to us.
So are you sure they were Jehovah's Witnesses, or were they Mormons?
Guys, we know it was a Jehovah's Witness. They were showing up the door to door for a very long time.
Well, Mormons do the exact same thing.
I know, but we only ever got the Jehovah's Witness. I think I ever met a Mormon. But yeah, I just want to relay that story because it's like, yeah, I know you're getting that.
Right. And just since the topic of Mormons was brought up, I just wanted to say, dum 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 dum.
And for anyone who doesn't understand, that is a reference to South Park.
Yes.
Uh, okay, so anyways, I would do all the exact same stuff. And Stoner was asking, what was it that broke my brainwashing? Well, it was quite literally seeing the hypocrisy, seeing people gossip, seeing people turn their backs on me when I had done nothing wrong.
Mhm. Um. So And again, just some interesting side stories. I'm wondering, do you have any interesting or funny stories that you remember from your time doing that whole door to door stuff? Anything stick out as like weird or ridiculous or funny or
Oh
just
no, no, it
no?
it 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 was it was all just manipulation by narcissists.
Yeah. But I
All of
mean,
it.
no like crazy people encountered or like just interesting like encounters with people that.
No, because back then, I mean, the state was fairly, blasé about anything and everything, especially people that lived in the cities. They don't care. They never have. I mean, yeah, you might be inconveniencing them when you knock on their door on a Saturday morning while they're boning their wife. But
Mhm.
if that's the case, they're just gonna bone their wife harder and we'll fucking leave.
Hmm. Fair enough. Anyone else have any questions, or shall I continue my
I
questioning?
was I was hoping Drakena would have some questions.
I actually do have one. I was just wondering how much your views on all of that changed when you left, because I had a similar thing with being a Baptist. So
Well, I held on to a lot of my beliefs for a while afterwards, even into joining the Marine Corps. The first thing that I did shed from the entire religion was the conscientious objector. I I was no longer a conscientious objector, so I joined the Marine Corps because let's kill people. I'm kidding. I don't ever want to kill someone, but I don't have a problem with it when it comes to someone who is trying to kill me. Um, and I did, you know, kind of jump around from from service to service every Sunday. I did a little bit at the Protestant service. I spent a little time at the Seventh Day Adventist service, and I tell you what, that is some freaky shit.
What is the Seventh Day Adventist service like?
Um, it's very similar to Mormonism, but add in um Illinois Baptist
Mhm.
and people talking in tongues.
So like Pentecostal nonsense and stuff.
Yeah,
People
very,
just
very,
babbling.
very similar. Very, very
Mhm.
similar. And
Um.
Drakena has
Mhm.
dropped out again.
Uh, yeah, understandable. So while she is busy reconnecting, there
And
she
there
is.
she is.
I'm just curious on that. What is a standard Jehovah's Witness service, like religious service, like? What actually does it? What does it contain? What happens during it?
So on a Sunday service, a Sunday meeting, you start with um your your music. There's there's a song that everyone sings every morning,
Mhm.
or
Are
every
instruments
every Sunday
allowed, or is it
morning.
just a cappella?
No, it's well, it's not a cappella. They have the music recorded, and you
Mhm.
sing to the music. Um, and then they do what most people would consider a sermon, and it's about 35 to 50 minutes long.
Mhm.
Really depends on the person giving the talk. I've seen them go as short as 20 minutes, and I've seen them as long as an hour and 15.
Mhm.
Uh, and then there's uh, the intermission, which isn't an intermission at all, but in reality, it's just getting up and singing another song
Hmm.
to segue into one of the magazines that the Watchtower and Awake Society distributes called The Watchtower.
Mhm.
And there's generally, I think, 3 different articles in the magazine that you are supposed to study throughout the week, or one for each week. And during during the during that study, quote unquote study, um, the the person directing it will have another person reading each paragraph, and at the end of
Mhm.
it, there will be questions that are assigned in the magazine, and people
Mhm.
will raise their hands and give answers to those questions. One of those, let's reinforce the programming by making them say it.
Mhm.
And then at the end of that, once you've finished the article and once everyone's gotten their answers out of the way, there's one more song and then a prayer, and you're done. And most
Hmm.
people generally socialize afterwards for about an hour. And back then, a bunch of the members from the congregation would go to a restaurant or to a buffet, and they'd get food together and just
Right.
continue socializing.
Yeah.
It's a very good
Um,
way to keep people in the programming.
it's true. One other question I had that I've heard this that I'm not entirely sure is true, so it's good to ask someone who's actually gone through it. Is it true that I have heard that they actually Jehovah's Witnesses they discourage people from actually just reading the Bible because of like without by themselves and self study of that sort of thing, and that you're only supposed to really read it and understand it in the context of like when the elders are going over it, and you're not supposed to
No,
read it yourself.
no, not at all.
Oh no.
Now they will ask that 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 you study certain scriptures throughout the week,
Right.
but in reality, the head of the family is
Mhm.
supposed to go from the start of the Bible to the end of the Bible and teach their family about the Bible. So,
Mm.
you've got a nuclear family, a dad, a mom, and 2 fucking kids. And the father is supposed to go through, and each week the family should or is supposed to sit down and do like half a chapter of a book
Mhm.
and discuss it, discuss what they learned about it. Um, and that's so that the patriarch of the family can instill the doctrines that the society teaches, instill those doctrines into their children and
Mm.
reinforce them in their wife.
Mm. All right, fair enough. I guess that what I heard was wrong then, but makes sense. Does once again, does anyone else have any other questions?
Eh.
Mm. Mari,
Boo.
Rakena?
Ah, you've actually asked most of them that I was actually curious about. So,
Fair enough.
Well, understand that this isn't just about the religion. It's also the living conditions under the religion. Because
Mhm.
I did say that this is about high demand slash doomsday religions, which Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons fall under, and they hold very, very similar belief systems.
Hmm. Also, just for Stoner messaging me, saying that he was a Baptist. I thought you were a Pentecostal. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought you were a Pentecostal and a Baptist earlier. All those fucking crazy
He
quote unquote speaking in
he
tongues nonsense.
he
But they're
had a
just
he had a period where he jumped church to church, and at
uh,
one point he had dropped into a Baptist church and was really into it for a while until they dropped the flat earther belief system.
interesting. Also insane. And just for the record, for any Pentecostals who may be listening here, although I doubt many are, speaking in tongues means speaking different languages. It doesn't mean speaking gibberish. Unless
Yes,
you're
well,
speaking fluently in an actual real language, you're not fucking speaking in tongues. You're just spazzing out.
yeah, well, that's pretty much what happened when I went to the Seventh Day Adventist service in
Yeah,
boot camp. It's some freaky stuff. Uh,
indeed. What was the most normal of the services you went to?
uh, Probably the Protestant service, and that's the church that or the service that I had settled on. And I did get baptized just before the end of boot camp at the Protestant service. But honestly, what really drew me to that service was the fact that they were playing Switchfoot, and it doesn't matter if I'm a Christian or not. I love Switchfoot.
Hmm.
They are a great band. And most
I'm not
people,
sure I'm familiar with them. What are they like? Rock, metal, hard
they're
rock?
they're Christian new age rock.
Huh. I don't know much
And
good Christian music, but
well, and
interesting.
unless you've watched some Nicholas Sparks chick flicks, you're really not gonna know who Switchfoot is.
Mm. Yeah, that does not sound like something I would watch.
Yeah, so you've not seen The Notebook and you've not seen A Walk to
Oh no,
Remember.
hell no.
Okay, well,
Um,
Switchfoot was my A Walk to Remember was my first introduction to Switchfoot.
fair enough. Yeah. Only no, only Christian band I know that's actually good is a metal band called Theocracy. They're metal as fuck, so anyone listening, check them out. They're awesome. Fucking epic. What is it? Epic symphonic Christian power metal. They're absurd, but they're great. Actually, and also one other. Also Paramecium. It's Australian death metal that happens to somehow be Christian. Also good. Not death metal. Sorry, Death Doom. Great band as well. But
Uh,
that's
you
just me.
you you may actually come to like a band called Cold.
Mhm.
Um, they they teeter between Christian rock and just straight rock.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of their early music, and in fact, not just their early music, pretty much everything up until the last album that they've released has been heavily Christian.
Mhm.
I still love all of their music.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, there's. Let me see if I can pull up the music. Um, Modify conversions, cold. So from their first to their fifth album. So their first album is self-titled. Their second album is 13 Ways to Bleed on Stage. Their third
Hmm.
album is Year of the Spider. Their fourth album is A Different Kind of Pain. And their fifth album is Superfiction. pretty much every single album has at least one song with some sort of Christian messaging.
Hmm.
My first introduction, again to Cold, was during A Walk to Remember.
Mhm.
And that was from their. mm, I think it was from 13 Ways to Bleed on Stage. I think the song was No One. No,
Mhm.
no. I can't. I can't for certain remember what it was.
Hmm.
There was only one other band that had any part of that movie, and that was Fuel, and they certainly are not a Christian rock band. But I
Yeah.
love Fuel as well.
Stoner has a question. He says, when you were in the Jehovah's Witnesses, were you taught young Earth creationism? Also, the Baptist church I was in and the Pentecostal church I were in were almost the same. Difference was Pentecostal was very hyper and like an insane asylum. Noted. And question back to you.
Um, so I was taught early young Earth creationism. I was taught that the Earth was about 6,000 years old.
Hmm.
I know much better now, and that was something that I just didn't really buy while I was in.
Yeah,
There were certain things that just didn't seem right. I mean, we had
yeah,
all of this proof at that point in my life that there was definitely something that happened before humans were on this earth, and yeah, it definitely been around for way longer
yeah.
than 6,000 years.
Yes. It is worth noting that young Earth creationism is a early 20th century heresy invented by one man in the United States named George McCready Price, who even a Seventh-day Adventist who even at the time other people in his circle did not take seriously. They all thought he was insane when it comes to this, and only became popular in like the 1960s and above. This is not something that anyone has ever believed until the 1960s. Everyone else always recognized this was insane,
Well,
and
except for Jehovah's Witnesses.
fair
They've been
enough.
they've been teaching it ever since the Watchtower Society was set up in the early 20th century.
Right. But I assume once again after George Price in like 1913 or whatever. When I say no
Hilariously,
one, I mean basically no. Like okay, like a million people in the country. I
hil-
guess that's
hil-
not no one, but
hilariously, this the entire religion, the Jehovah's Witnesses religion, started from one man. I can't remember his name, but he had actually gone to a Mormon service alongside Price,
oh,
and they both took shit away from that. And the one that went on to start the Watchtower Society, he had
are you
huge.
referring to Charles Russell?
Yes, Charles
All
Russell.
right.
He had
Yes.
huge, huge crossover between the Mormon Church and Seventh Day Adventists because he was also close to Price.
Hmm. That makes sense. They're all equally as insane, or at
I
least
actually, I
close
actually,
to as insane.
I've got um, I've got old EPs, old 67s of talks that Russell gave.
Hmm. Like, actually recorded talks, or is this just
Uh huh.
people like? Oh wow,
Actual recorded talks,
wow.
as well as talks given by Brother Rutherford, and there's one more. Um, I've got these old 67s laying around somewhere. I don't know
Are you
where, but
referring? So, are you referring to Nathan Noor?
no.
Oh.
He was one of the witnesses that was arrested not long after 1918.
Hmm. Yeah, that I'm a bit less familiar with.
Let's
Yeah,
see
but
here.
interesting. So these are very old recordings then. He's like,
Oh
didn't
yeah.
Russell die in like 1917 or something like that?
I don't know.
Yeah, he was around, like, he started in the 1870s. So like, yeah, these are super old recordings. Even though I think they're insane, that's still super cool. You have these recordings that were
Yeah,
originally taken
I've
like
I've yeah, I
super
mean
early 20th century.
for a long time that's how the Watchtower Society disseminated information outside of the written word. They'd record talks and put it on vinyl.
Hmm. That's yeah. That's, I will credit to them. That's actually really cool. Um. hmm.
And
And
look,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, no topic is off limits. Nothing.
Hmm.
Uh, anything that could at all have to do with a religion is on the table.
Hmm. All right. Let me think and see if I can give one. How do like how do confessions work in regard to that church? Like, what
So
are are people assumed to be like? Are people punished for like committing sins? Are they like how does that whole thing work? You did
so
something bad and you go to confess.
here's how things work. If you've committed a sin, um, keep it to your fucking self.
Mm.
Keep it to yourself, because no one wants to be up in front of uh a an elders judiciary committee. No one wants to be up in front of the elders. Basically, the way this works is if you think you've committed an egregious sin, say you've had sex outside of marriage, um,
Mhm,
and you feel awful about it, you
mhm,
go to one of your elders. Generally, they would direct you to go to your assigned elder. You tell them what you've done, and they'll pull a bunch of elders together.
mhm,
Generally, there's 4 or 5 elders in a congregation, and they'll sit down and they'll talk about it. And if they think that it's a big deal, they're going to call you in for a meeting,
mhm,
and they're going to talk about what you did, and they're going to go through the Bible with you, tell you why what you did was wrong, and if they feel that you are repentant enough, you may just get off with a warning.
mhm,
But if you don't, you can be disfellowshipped, you can be removed from field service. Uh, they can do some pretty gnarly shit, and if you are disfellowshipped, no one in the congregation is allowed to talk to you.
hmm.
And if you are an
Even your
adult,
family.
not even your family can talk to you.
Wow. What happens if you're a child? Then your family still can
Your
be interact with
your
you.
your family can interact with you only so far as uh to try to convince you to, you know, repent, to change your ways.
Mhm.
But other than that, you don't really get jack squat. Which
And then
is
this, sorry.
which is why in Australia, the Watchtower and Awake Society is in hot water. And they've been in hot water in Europe as well
Hmm. Why
for
is
their
that?
practice for their practices in disfellowshipment. There are often kids that are disfellowshipped, and parents are specifically told you cannot interact with your children. And we're talking minors. You cannot
Mhm.
interact with them. And this is seen as abuse in Europe and in Australia. And it still hasn't gotten that far in the US because, anyone with a tax-free status gets off.
Mhm. And is this disfellowship, is it a permanent thing, or is it like you can be re-fellowshipped?
You can get back into the congregation. You can get back into their good graces, but you have to demonstrate repentance and true guilt over what you did. Hilariously enough, uh, in one in one congregation, even so, say you have a city, it's got two congregations. They both go to the same kingdom hall, aka
Mhm.
aka a church. You've got two different congregations both going to the same church, separate
Mhm.
times. You've got two people and two bodies of elders.
Mhm.
First person goes to their body of elders, says, "I masturbated."
Mhm.
That body of elders may disfellowship them,
Right. Just over
even
that.
just over that. Now, take the second congregation, second person, second body of elders. Second person walks in, talks to the elders, says, "I'm sorry, I've masturbated." That body of elders is probably going to say, "Do you feel bad about it?" "Yeah." "Okay, go back. We don't care."
Hmm.
Not sure why my internet keeps dropping out. It's okay. I mean, you are in an area in a mountainous area where things suck. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you've got a fiber line.
True there. I've been realizing that lately.
Yeah. So, hmm. All right. So, I guess next question: do they participate in any form of communion or Eucharist in their churches?
Okay, so you remember how we were talking earlier about the winter solstice and the summer solstice, the
Yeah.
rebirth of the sun,
Mhm.
and how the summer solstice hilariously falls right around Easter and the Passover.
Mhm.
Well, Jehovah's Witnesses observe the Passover because that is when Christ was supposed to have had his final dinner, his last dinner with
Mhm.
his disciples, where he passed out the unleavened bread and the wine, said, "This bread is my body,"
Mhm.
and said, "This wine is my blood."
Mhm.
The only people that can partake in what you call communion are people who believe they're part of the 144,000 that are going to heaven.
Huh.
It,
That's interesting.
so in the book of Revelations, there's talk about 12,000 out of each tribe of Judah.
Mhm.
That's where Jehovah's Witnesses get 144,000 people going to heaven.
Mhm.
And there were already a lot of people uh, from the Watchtower and Awake Society back in the early 1900s that had already partaken. So it's basically, unless you are 100% certain, like you know from birth that you are one of the anointed from God, you don't drink the wine, you don't eat the bread, you pass it around down the row and then back.
Hmm. Was there
And
anyone in your congregation who would actually eat the bread and drink the wine, or did everyone just
no,
pass it back?
everyone just passed it back.
What would have happened if someone ate the bread and drank the wine? Would anything have
Uh,
happened of it, or would it just be like,
everyone probably would have gasped, um, and the elders would probably have told everyone to stay on track, and then the elders would have confronted that person after the observation of the Passover.
hmm.
This
And they
and
would have, sorry?
this is the only time of the year that the what you guys call sacrament is passed around. That's the only time of the year, is during the Passover.
Hmm. Interesting. To answer your question again, Stoner, it's insane. As I've often already said, Revelation is not a literal prophecy for things to come. It's highly symbolic. People who assume it's not, and all these end times rapture people, dispensationalists are crazy. They're heretics. They're crazy heretics, and so is their undying loyalty to the nation of Israel that they believe needs to exist for Jesus to come back. Also insane. It is a very uniquely American type of heresy and insanity. And yeah, um, that's all I really have to say on dispensationalism. It's crazy.
Oh,
Are you aware of? Because I assume you saw Stoner's question. Are you aware of dispensationalism?
no, I've never heard of it.
Uh, are you aware of the phenomena I brought up about the whole like the evangelical obsession over the nation of Israel and why they believe that how they believe it needs to exist. Therefore, you need to continue funding it because without it, Jesus isn't coming back.
No, because I mean, having been raised as a Jehovah's Witness, we all thought that Jesus came back in 1918 and has been waging a
Or
war against Satan ever since.
oh, that's interesting. Didn't they have multiple failed predictions for when the end of the world was coming? Or was it just the
Yes,
one?
that's a little bit different. So the first one was in the 1960s, the second one was in the 1970s. Then there
Mhm.
was this whole hoopla around the early 2000s, around the time that the trade towers fell,
Mm.
and even to this day, um, the governing body of the Watchtower and Awake Society is constantly saying we're finally in the last days of the end days, and I'm like, you people are crazy.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Do they believe in a rapture?
What, like everyone fucking
Basically
disappearing and
all
shit?
basically all the Christians disappear, and then we enter into the time of tribulation where all the sinners are like
No,
subjugated
no,
to
no, no, no,
massive.
no. That's 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 not how things work in the Society of Jehovah's Witnesses. The
What do they
the
believe is going to happen during the so-called end times?
so they think we're already in the end time. And during the end times, what is going to happen is Christ is waging a righteous war against Satan, and things will increasingly get worse and worse and worse in the world. There's going to be more more crime. There's going to be more natural disasters, so monsoons, earthquakes, hurricanes, that sort of stuff. More tornadoes, more volcanic eruptions.
So they're basically fucking climate cultists.
Sort of. But
Greta Thunberg would make a good Jehovah's Witness.
But the whole thing is, all of these things have to be happening. Like, it has to get worse and worse and worse, not better.
Mhm.
And the second that things get better, you know that you're not in the end times. And then they think that at some point human suffering will be so unbearable that God is going to destroy the earth and kill everyone on it.
Mhm.
And at this point in time, he will look into our hearts of the people who are dead and judge them. And if they believed right up until the end, then they will be brought back to life on a paradise earth, similar to the paradise that Adam and Eve were created in.
Hmm.
And he will have his 144,000 in heaven with him, and we'll just be recreated perfectly on earth. It's eh,
Does anyone go to hell, or are they simply just destroyed if they
witnesses.
aren't on part of that?
And here's where I am very fervently a believer in the fact that the New Testament is just Roman paganism rebranded. Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in a hell. Even though there's talk of hell in the New Testament, because there were very specific allusions to there not being a hell in the Old Testament, in ancient Hebrew.
Well, there was Gehenna, which was kind of like hell.
Gehenna is into the dirt. And in that specific instance, they're talking about people dying. What happens when you die? You turn to dust. Dust goes into the earth. They were very literal about that. I'm sorry. I've got a pity sitting behind me, kind of whining.
Understandable.
And Stoner,
Right.
basically
Yeah, well,
what the Baptists and Pentecost. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, while you're addressing the Pitbull situation, I was gonna say Stoner has written and said basically what the Baptists and the Pentecostals believe is that one day soon Jesus will snatch all his followers from earth, the rapture. Then for 7 years the Antichrist will rise to power and unite the nations under a one world UN like dictatorship. There's going to be a one world religion that worships the Antichrist like a god. The mark of the beast will be an implantable digital currency chip. Yeah, it's
And I thought Jehovah's Witnesses were insane.
indeed. Though I do kind of agree with the whole attempt for a one world UN like dictatorship. I do believe that is occurring and that people are trying to do that. I don't necessarily think it's because of the Antichrist. It's just
let's say for a second I believe in God, and I believe that God had in fact condoned righteous wars. I'm fairly certain that if the UN tried doing anything, especially on US soil,
Yeah.
and a bunch of us Americans stood up and fought, we would be the righteous few.
Yeah. All I will say is I do believe there will be a time when the need to collect UN helmets will occur, and I look forward to collecting a lot of helmets.
I still don't buy that document that you had posted in the server.
Hmm.
I still don't
Yeah.
buy that it's real.
If I may take a page from a certain politician's book, it may not be factually correct, but it's morally true.
So it may not have been a real document, but it's true.
Yes. You by any chance, does anyone get what I am referring to?
No, I don't.
All right, so there's a rather infamous clip of AOC saying after she said that unemployment is low because everyone's working two jobs. She was pointed out that that's absurd, and her response was, "It may not be factually correct, but it's morally true."
No, unemployment is. Oh, God,
Yes. That is
Jesus.
how ignorant she is of basically anything. Unemployment's down because people are working two jobs. What?
I forgot about that. Unemployment isn't counted by the number of jobs that there are. It's
Yes.
counted by how many people have jobs.
Yes.
Good
If one
Lord,
person works
AOC.
multiple jobs, it's still only one person. One employed person.
Let's see. All this time in Israel, the Zionists will rebuild the old temple and resume their sacrifices to God. That is, until halfway through the tribulation, the Antichrist will desecrate the temple by sacrificing a pig on the altar. And then I understand what you're saying, but remember what the evangelicals think. They believe everyone, not a Christian, will follow the Antichrist and gladly do whatever he says.
Yes. This is your brain on evangelicalism. Yeah. This is what happens when you take Yes, this is what happens when you take every single thing written in Revelation literally. It's not a good place to be.
No, it's not. So we've done this for about an hour. Drakena, do you have any questions? Is there anything I can help you understand about high demand religions?
Uh, I honestly still understand very little about it, honestly. Um,
Okay, so here's the best way I can explain a high demand religion. It is a religion based around the majority theism of whatever country you're in that expects the highest moral and ethical standards of its followers. So, for instance, in Mormonism and in the Watchtower and Awake Society, you are expected to not only follow the teachings of the New Testament, you are also expected to follow the teachings of the Old Testament.
So they can't mix fabrics?
Well, more so the Ten Commandments.
Oh, fair enough.
So, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not adulter, uh, that sort of stuff. And in these religions, pretty much everything is believed to be as bad of a sin as murder. Damn fruit flies.
They're the worst.
Yeah. Got one crawling all over my microphone. So you start there at the base. every sin is the worst sin on the face of the planet. But then you go to the New Testament, and Christ died for our sins. So all he wants you to do, if you've committed one of these acts, is to truly repent and find your way to him. It's not like, say a few Hail Marys. You're basically repenting for the rest of your fucking life. And even if you didn't commit a sin, if the elders think that you did commit a sin and they can articulate what sin they think you committed, they can still punish you for it. Which is why we were on the topic of Jody Hildebrandt last week to begin with. Because they've given carte blanche to these people to punish people for perceived sins that probably don't fucking exist.
Yeah, it makes a little more sense. Yeah, I came from Presbyterian to Baptist before I left everything, so
Yeah, actually,
like
that's
I thought.
interesting. Sorry if I may interrupt. How did you get from Presbyterian to Baptist? Because they seem rather different from what I understand.
I actually just started out as Presbyterian, like
Hmm.
what my parents were,
Right.
and I remember I was maybe I don't think I was even 10 yet, but basically, the church I had gone to decided to get rid of the pastor because he wasn't catering enough to the elders.
Hmm.
And like his thing was getting young people in there, and he was doing great on it from what I've been told from, people back then. And yeah, once that happened,
Stoner,
my parents didn't much like it. And then I started questioning everything at that point. And yeah.
I'm going to interrupt for a second. Stoner,
Mm.
evangelicals are very tribalistic. They believe it's them versus everyone else. They think they're on the side of God and everyone else is serving Satan. It's why they're so bigoted against anything they're unable to understand. Coincidentally, that is every fundamentalist religion. Every single one. It's not just evangelicals, it's any fundamentalist religion. If you do not believe in what they believe, you're serving the devil, you're serving Satan, and you must be fought against. Ugh. Okay, so we got 25 minutes left. More like
24.
23. Yeah, 23, 24. So I told Dale that I was going to start on cinnamon rolls this weekend.
Mhm.
I have a dough, but I forgot that I needed brown sugar.
Hmm.
And the dough is a rich dough. It is very heavy in fats, but it's still staying together very well.
What
It's not.
you just use butter? I'm guessing for the fat.
I used butter, oil, and milk.
Hmm.
I used whole milk.
Hmm. Whole milk is like what percentage is that again? Is it like 3% or
I don't know, but 2% isn't 2% when they talk about percentages like 1%, 2%. That's how
Mhm.
much of the milk fats were substituted out
Oh,
for butter fat.
hmm. So whole milk is a different thing from that percentage.
Yes,
What does whole milk mean then?
whole milk is there's been nothing substituted out.
Hmm.
Um, so when it comes out of the cow, it comes out with all of the cream, all of the butter, everything comes out all at once. And through a
Mhm.
process, they separate out all of the cream and all of the butter fats. And then you just have the milk and the milk fat.
Mhm.
Um, the cream and the butter fats come out all together. And you can separate out the butter fats from the cream, and what's left over once you separate the butter fats from the cream is buttermilk.
Hmm.
And then uh, so you have buttermilk, and then you have the butter fats, and the butter fats are what you get in sticks of butter.
Mhm.
I'm surprised you didn't know any of this.
Yeah, well, it's just yeah, whole milk. I don't think I've ever seen whole milk in Canada here. We probably have it, but they probably hide it because they think it's bad. So yeah, I always just went with like the high. I always just went with like 4% because I truth be told, I don't drink that much milk.
Yeah,
Uh,
whole
Um,
milk's actually got a bit more of a sweet taste to it than like 1 or 2%.
yeah, a little bit.
yeah,
I think it's from the higher fat content, but I have no idea. I haven't had milk in years, so
not a big fan of milk.
just health issues. It doesn't agree with me.
Fair enough.
Lactose intolerant.
I'm not that far. It ended up giving me I don't know if it's indigestion or heartburn. I get the two confused all the time. And hell, now that I switched to the carnivore diet, it's just not really possible to fit it in without just drinking it straight. So,
In
You have gone full carnivore diet.
yeah, I've not
How
had any like plant-based foods for almost 2 months, almost three
nice?
months.
How has it gone for you so far?
I'll be honest, the first month was rough,
Hmm.
but that's just
What
because your
sort of
body,
issue? Yeah, what sort of issues did you experience in the first month, if you don't mind me asking?
well, from what I understand, it's actually common, but while your body gets used to using fats for energy rather than carbohydrates,
Right,
it can actually cause some digestive issues,
right,
which is what what my big issue was.
right.
But I mean,
But
it wasn't
after,
bad.
yeah,
It's like I was just uncomfortable for about, I guess, honestly, about a week, and then
and
everything started letting up.
and after that, you found it has gone much smoother, and
Oh yeah, I've had more energy than honestly I've probably had since my 20s.
hmm,
Um, like joint pains let up. My migraines aren't nearly as constant, and my stomach issues I've dealt with my entire life have all but disappeared now.
hmm,
Because at one point I was probably spending at least 20 to 30% of the week in the bathroom.
oh damn,
Yeah, it was bad. Like I've been on like every medication you can imagine trying to get it under control, and all it took was giving up plant-based foods.
so
that is
uh,
fascinating.
in
Hmm.
in indigestion is when your system kind of backs up, and eating is causing you to be a little bit upchucky.
Hmm,
Heartburn or acid reflux is when you have acid, like stomach acids, bubbling up from your stomach into your esophagus, and it's
Yeah,
constantly burning.
Yeah, that may be what it is. Because once it starts, I just start eating antacids like crazy to get it under control.
That would
right.
be acid reflux.
I've never been checked for it. It mainly just it. Well, it used to mainly be an issue when I drink sodas. So
That makes sense.
it's like I
GERD.
know what's causing it.
Yeah, I think
Huh?
its full name is GERD, which is GERD. which is gastroesophageal reflux disease.
Yeah,
And,
I've been surprised how much everything's changed. I still need to quit drinking sodas because I think that'll get rid of that issue. But
yeah,
but
it's
I'm a
At
caffeine addict, and it's honestly hard to give up
yeah.
soda, and I drink an obscene amount. Like most
if you're
people
gonna
cringe when they hear how much I go through a day.
if you're gonna keep drinking soda, go to a natural soda.
Yeah, that's something I've thought about because I used to get a like an actual orange-based soda that was organic and
Hmm,
had pure sugar in it instead of corn syrup. It was good. It's just
So
tough to find.
yeah.
natural sodas, they do not carbonate through CO2 forced carbonation. They carbonate through yeast.
Hmm,
Hmm, I did not know that.
Um, and so there's an amount of fermentation that has gone on in the process of making that soda.
Hmm, yeah,
Thankfully, I've never been much of a soda drinker. I remember back in like when I was 6 or 7, I drank some form of soda and it was just awful, and I never went back.
I've had all of 3 cans this week.
Hmm.
yeah. This week, I think I've probably been through at least 10 6-packs of 20 ounces.
Hey, what is your soda of choice?
Mountain Dew
Hmm.
or Dr. Pepper. I like to mix it
Oh,
up a
yeah.
little bit.
My mom
I
used
love
to
you.
really like Dr. Pepper, but other than that, I don't hear. Other than that, I don't hear many people give much love for Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, it seems to be falling out of favor.
No,
But
I love
honestly,
Dr.
it's
Pepper.
yeah, it's delicious. Just I don't know.
Uh, I have, however, favored the cream soda Dr. Pepper a bit more than original.
Huh, I don't think I've tried that one.
It's really good. Um, but Mountain Dew as well. I have two 36 can cases of Baja Blast.
I never actually
Yes.
got into that one. I used to love Code Red, but that stuff about killed me.
Uh, yeah. Well, like I said, I've had all of 3 cans of soda in the past week. It's been pretty much nothing but water and cranberry juice.
Cranberry is good, but
Yes.
the water is really where it's at. I almost exclusively just drink water, as well as occasional tomato juice and or kefir. Kefir is good.
Hmm.
Um, and I used to. I would say going back a month, or a month or two, I probably would have said and a shitload of bourbon. Though I don't drink a shitload of bourbon anymore.
It's been a month.
Right. So yeah, so that behind that, I would have also added the caveat is a lot of bourbon and some beer.
Speaking of alcohol,
Mhm.
we have skipped your financial audit checkup for 2 weeks now.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think doing it next week will be the best week because that's when I get paid. So we'll be able to actually see um the difference basically.
Well,
And
we're gonna have to do it on the 7th
all right,
because
so that works too.
I will need your statements
Ah, yes.
and not screenshots this time.
All right. All right, I will get you the PDFs of those. Yeah,
Okay.
I did screenshots last time because there was some person like there was some bank information I kind of wanted to just obscure in case it was accidentally shown or anything. I didn't want my
Oh yeah, no,
my numbers shown or anything. And,
I'm not showing any of your information. I'm just going over numbers.
right, right, all right. So yeah, I can get you those. And yeah, I will say at the moment, from what I have seen, it has been quite a difference so far. I shall show you later. It is very much a
Are
good thing.
are we saving money?
Oh yes,
Hand over fist?
yes.
Good. That's what I wanted to hear.
Mhm.
On the topic of food and spending money, I bought a deli slicer today.
How much did that cost?
About $120.
Not bad. Um, yeah, I also just recently, a few days ago, one thing I did buy, I bought an immersion blender as I've been lacking one for a while.
And
For
that's
the
great for making things like pizza sauce.
Yes, and soup. I really love thick soups, like thick cream soups, creamy soups, thick soups, and it's absolutely 100% needed for those. You need to blend your ingredients for those. I will finally be able to be having my thick soups again.
You got the recipe from Coda for Zuppa Toscana.
Yes, I did.
Have you tried it yet?
Not yet. I'll be going to the grocery store probably tomorrow, so at that point I'll be doing my big, 2 to 3 week uh trip. Buy stuff for the next few weeks. I'll probably be making it soon after that.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, by the
Um,
way, I managed to find some baker's yeast finally.
yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, what'd you get?
One moment. Let me actually take a look. I'll be right back.
Uh, Dracana, do you like cinnamon rolls?
I've not had
Oh,
any in years, but I used to like them.
I forgot you're on a carnivore diet.
Yeah, it's a bit of a struggle to get used to, I will say. Which I meant to say earlier talking about it. The best part of it is in the time that I have been on it, I have not changed my activity levels and I have lost 10 pounds.
Oh,
So,
Nice.
very nice. Um, I'm back now, and to answer your questions, I got this thing called Fleischermann's Traditional Active Dry Yeast.
Perfect. It's exactly what you need. Did you get it in the jar or did you get it in the packet?
It's a packet.
Okay.
They're
I want you
three
to start
8 gram
looking for it in the
packets.
jars.
All right, the jars are better.
Yeah, the jars are better because uh the amounts that are called for in my recipes are 1%,
Mhm.
maybe 2% of the weight of the flour that you're using. If
Right.
you've got 8 gram packets, that's generally a little bit more than 3 to 5%.
Mm. And is it how much of a difference does it make? Say if you have a couple extra percent, like is it a noticeable difference? Like will things either go wrong or
They'll
not?
so so the rise of the dough will go faster ultimately.
Mhm.
Um and it's you're not going to be able to ferment the dough as long as you
Mm.
generally would have if you followed the 1% recipe.
Ah,
So most of my recipes revolve around anywhere from 500 grams to 700 grams of flour.
mhm.
Um, at at 500 grams, 5% is 5 grams.
Hmm. All right. I don't know. I could just bake 800 grams of bread.
Yes, you're also going to have to uh, readjust the recipe for the correct portions.
Right. That's relatively simple to do, though. Right? Anyone who knows basic math can do that. Um.
Yes,
Yeah. I just don't. Well, I think the constraining factor would be that I have to make sure I have a large enough vessel to bake it in.
Well,
'Cause, yeah.
I didn't send you the recipe because I didn't make it for the sandwich rolls.
Mhm.
But that recipe is 550 grams of flour
Huh.
and um I don't remember. I'm gonna have to recreate it again, but it's 550 grams of flour, uh 58% hydration.
Mhm.
um but what I do with that is I split it up, do half of water
Mhm.
plus 100 grams of water, so one half plus 100, and then I do
Right.
the other half in heavy cream,
Hmm.
and then I add oil and I add butter, and you can get 5 rolls out of it.
Hmm. Not bad.
Okay, so
Yeah. Oh, just on that one last question. So one of the recipe I was, of course, because I am where I am, looking up recipes to how to make proper baguettes. I'm just wondering, would you say something? Because from what I've seen, they want stuff like 75% hydration. Would you say that would make it like more difficult for someone who's new to this, or would that be does that really not matter much?
it it's all going to depend on the flour that you're using. Remember, the higher the hydration,
Hmm.
um, the I guess you guys can hear Nugget. The
Hmm.
higher the hydration, the generally the wetter the dough.
Hmm.
The things that you have to keep in mind when you're working with wet dough is your hands need to be wet. If you don't want
Right.
it to stick to your hands need to be wet. Um,
Hmm.
and for the final shaping, you need you need flour and you need rice flour so that once it's finally shaped, you can dust it with rice flour and it won't stick to anything.
Right.
I generally stay away from rice flour and I stay away from high hydration doughs because I can get the
Hmm.
same effects by adding fat and keeping the hydration low. Excuse me. And keeping the hydration low so it's easier to work with. I don't have to keep my hands wet, and
Hmm.
I still get a similar looking crumb from all of it.
All right. Welcome back.
Buttermilk and cornbread is a redneck staple dish. Well, guess what, Stoner? I don't drink buttermilk and I don't eat cornbread.
Ah, cornbread is so good.
No, you should have told me
I miss it.
before this marriage that you were a fucking pussy.
That's how you know you can separate those from the South from those not from the South. Is one I don't
You
eat
just told
cornbread,
me
and the
cheating on
others
me
I
again.
miss
Do you have to go break
cornbread.
my heart about
What about
cornbread?
grits?
I've only ever had grits once. I had shrimp and grits once at some Cajun place. It was pretty good, but I've never had grits besides that.
You people are just straight up devils. Anyways, um that is it for tonight. We are at 6:57 and to close out on time, we've got a 3-minute 20-second cap. With that, let's go ahead and say goodbye everyone. Let's start with Drakena. Say goodnight, Drakena.
Good night.
And then we will move on to Mali, our resident Serbian. Say goodnight, Mali, with your mic
Well,
muted.
correct.
And let's go ahead and have our resident Soviet Kanakistani Dale, say goodnight. Say goodnight, Dale.
Au revoir. Tout le monde.
Dirty fucking
Good night.
Frenchy Frenchman. With that, I wish everyone a good evening and a good night.
And don't forget, children, if you eat without your partner, that is considered cheating. It's food cheating. And this bitch has done it multiple times.
With that, have a good night. I will see everyone later.